Introducing NASM 1, NASM's ultimate membership program, where the NASM community helps each other build incredible careers, transforming the lives of the clients we inspire and supporting each other as we grow and succeed. NASM 1 is best-in-class tools, cutting-edge certifications, confidence in your craft, and everything you do as a personal trainer made easy.
You're listening to the NASM CPT Podcast with Rick Richey, winner of the Sharecare Emmy Award for Social Storytelling and the official podcast of the National Academy of Sports Medicine.
Hey, y'all, and welcome to the NASM CPT Podcast. My name is Rick Richey, and today my guest is a former professional bodybuilder. He's won numerous titles, such as being a 5-time Ironman Pro winner, 4-time Arnold Classic winner, multiple other wins, including a near win on the Olympia in 1993. Our guest is widely regarded as the greatest bodybuilder to never win the Mr. Olympia contest. He's considered by many to have the greatest physique that's ever been, one of the greatest bodybuilders, and what may be the greatest era that changed the sport into what it is today, with athletes like Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman, and Lee Haney. A name right up there with these giants. Welcome to the podcast, the legend himself, Flex Wheeler. Hey, Flex, how you doing today?
Hey, it's a pleasure to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
I love having you here, and I hope that me reading that off did not embarrass you.
No, I'm just kind of laughing. It's always interesting, to hear things read off that you achieved. You don't really look at it that way until somebody reads it off like, oh, yeah, I did do that, didn't I?
I know. I kind of feel that way because when I'm guest on other people's podcasts and they read off things and I'm like, stop it.
Yeah.
So let's just talk. But I don't do that for other people. I read off their stuff. So I want to absolutely harken back to the greatness, some of the amazing accomplishments that you've put up there. I mean, you were definitely a legend with a lot of other legendary players in the game. And so I wanted to shout that out, but I also want to give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself so that it's not just me reading off that list. It'll be the introduction that you prefer to share. So go ahead and Flex, tell us a little bit about you.
A little bit. Well, I mean, I think most people know, but my real name is Kenneth Wheeler, Kenneth Martin Wheeler. I was born in Fresno, California. Got started in bodybuilding, working out when I was about 13 years old. Got involved in martial arts when I was about 7 and started competing in both when I was about 14 years old, and just love both of them dearly. I've always loved martial arts way more than I ever could love bodybuilding, but one paid the bill and the other one didn't. So that's how I ended up here.
All right. So let me ask the question, is it true or not true? But I read somewhere that Flex wasn't a name that was given to you because of bodybuilding. It was actually given to you for another reason. Is that true?
Yeah. There's one story because of, my flexibility was given to me for that reason, but actually it was actually a derogatory comment. People making fun of me, saying, because I was so tiny. I guess I always walked around, like I'm a little big man and like, oh, here comes Flex again, so
stop.
It was actually a derogatory name. And the first time I went on stage when I was 14, the announcer was like, you're Flex, right? And I'm like, no, I don't do that, man. And he walked in, Flex Wheeler, and the crowd went crazy. And, I just ran with it from there.
That's a cool name to run with. I don't know. Yeah. I feel like you reclaimed it. Like it may have been a pejorative at the time, but I feel like you definitely reclaimed it.
Definitely.
Yeah. But were you flexible? Is that true? Because that's a story I heard. I heard that you were called Flex because you had a lot of flexibility, probably from the martial arts. But
exactly.
Is that true? Yeah. Were you pretty flexible?
Yeah, very, very much so. And even throughout my competitive years as a pro, I always did the splits on stage. So it was like a
Remember.
dual kind of meaning, you know.
Dude, I remember that. I remember seeing that, and I used to be able to do that. I would do the Jean-Claude Van Damme between the
Yeah,
chairs and stuff like that. But I'm a little dude, and seeing somebody your size pull that off, I thought that was make believe. I was like, that cannot be true. I just didn't think it was possible. And you again, like, flipped the script on some things.
yeah, and it was just again, starting in martial arts when I was 9 years old, and fighting all the way up until my mid 20s. I just was able to keep that flexibility. So it was so simple. I mean, walking around at 298 pounds and being able to do the splits or take my leg and kick it straight in the air. It was just like, it was as easy as walking, not walking back then, not walking now.
Yeah, I definitely want to get to that. So
Sure.
let's slowly move that direction to let people just kind of dangle the carrot that walking now is a little different than it used to be, and there is
I
a
walk a different
significant
walk.
reason why.
Yeah, I
Um,
walk to the beat of a different drum now, definitely.
for sure. Let me ask you real quick, just because I was a martial artist too, and I still do. I do jujitsu, and I'd
Right.
like to get back into doing Muay Thai, which I did competitively for a while. So, which martial arts did you do? What was your
So
sport?
I started off. I started off in Shorin-ryu, and
Yeah.
then ironically, I went to Shotokan from there.
My
Um,
father did Shotokan.
oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah.
hard.
Yes, sir.
Love the Shotokan. That's hard, right? Hard punches, hard kicks, lock everything out. Then I went to Chinese Kung Fu, Hapkido Kung Fu, Taekwondo, and then Kempo. And then my last style, there was a teacher, Jihan. He was a fifth Dan and Taekwondo, and the other was a seventh Dan and Kempo. And they joined forces and created Kemkondo. So obviously, for close quarter combat, Kempo is going to be, you're going to go to. And for kicking, not necessarily Olympic style Taekwondo kicking, but applicable fighting Taekwondo kicking is no better kicking than that. So they just combined both of those, and kind of took away the weaknesses of some of the arts, because you might have like Kempo, great in close quarter, but as far as long range, it's not going to be your go-to. And same thing with Taekwondo or something like that. Close quarter is not going to be what you want to get down with. So, but the truth is, out of all of them, I do feel the purest fight form, as far as protecting yourself on a street or your family, is 100% going to be. Oh my gosh, I just got a brain for it. I just forgot it right now. But Thai boxing is what I was going to say.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Thai
yeah. That was
boxing.
I was able I competed a little bit in Muay Thai, and I did
Yeah,
some kickboxing as well. It was just a fun sport. I started it with some Chinese kung fu as well. Choi Li Fut was what it was called, and then I went on into kickboxing, which it was fun. It was a great experience for me, and it molded a lot of who I was and the direction that I went in my life.
yeah, just a discipline, a self-discipline
That's
that you
right.
have. Amazing.
Well, I want to ask you, if you don't mind, we have a connection. So there's an NASM connection here, and I want you to share a little bit about a friend, possibly even a mentor of yours, and how you guys got connected with us at NASM.
Yeah, definitely. You're speaking of Neal Spruce,
Yes, sir.
AKA, he's like a father figure to me, actually, out of respect for the position he holds with me, business and professionally. Personally, mostly, I call him Dad when I talk to him. But
Oh, wow.
we met back in the early '90s, back when he was running Gold's Gym Nutrition, and I desperately needed help with my nutrition and everything. And people were trying to find me somebody to work with me, because I didn't have any money at all whatsoever. So a friend introduced me to Neal, and unfortunately, when I met Neal, he just he told Neal about me, and Neal just said, "Hey, I just don't have the time. Sounds like a great kid." And me and Neal ended up meeting in the gym and just hitting it off like that. And he
Nice.
asked me what was my name, and I told him. He goes, "Oh, you're the kid they told me about." And it was just from there. He really. Wow, he really took a wild horse and helped tame me. We had similarities from our hard times in the street, and
It sounds like a special relationship.
yeah, he was really there for me.
Man, I'm happy to hear that. I feel like he's probably somebody that's been there for you early on and hasn't stopped being there for you. And
Yeah.
I guess I'll take this moment to go ahead and start shifting from the talk about bodybuilding in the past to, well, not quite the past, because I want to talk about there's life changing. We talked about walking now is a little bit different than walking then.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about some of that adversity and what happened, if you don't mind sharing, and then kind of how that shifted your perspective from bodybuilding into a different form of how wellness and fitness helps?
Yeah, I mean, it's just something you would never imagine happening. Especially for me, have always been incredibly active at a very high level. First going through a kidney transplant that ended my career. You wouldn't dream of that, and then almost 20 years later, I started having a lot of pain in my right lower leg. I started going to specialists. Meanwhile, I'm still working and traveling the planet, literally. And it was one time I was on my way to China, and I just the pain in my leg was so severe. I literally just broke down in the airport, and I just hovered there and I sobbed. I was like, wow, I just thought it was like a bad cramp. I couldn't figure out what it was. So it's like every time I take like 5 or 10 steps, it would just, the pain would just cause me to crumble. Anyway, I got back home. I kept going to these doctors, and it's just, wow, just really, really heartbreaking how little our doctors know these days. But went to the ER, went to the best doctors, best hospitals here in Las Vegas, and for years, and just still the pain is just getting worse. And finally, I became really good friends with my private doctor, and I was like, man, I'm just like, this is BS. They keep saying I pulled a muscle or it's a cramp or what. I noticed it's something worse. I've torn muscles before. This isn't a torn muscle. He's like, well, Flex, we've done everything except an ultrasound. I'm like, well, why don't we do an ultrasound? And he goes, well, okay. So went in and did the ultrasound, and a lady, found this blood clot, like within 5 minutes, and it just horrified her to the point where she started sobbing.
Man.
Yeah, while she was looking at it, her eyes started tearing up, and I turned around and I glanced at her and I just said, I'm sorry, but please tell me what you see that causes you to cry. And she just shook her head. Excuse me. Sorry. She just shook her head and said, I can't tell you that information. Let me finish my job, and I'm going to have to call us in stat. I need you to stay here now.
Wow.
Sorry.
So that was for a blood clot, and that's what they found?
Initially, that's what they thought. It was a blood
Okay.
clot. I got home. My doctor called me immediately and said, where are you? And I just got home. And he goes, Flex, I'm actually shocked you even made it home. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, it's that bad. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was supposed to be flying to, I was supposed to be flying out of the country to Australia in 21 hours. And he's like, Flex, you don't get on that flight. You get on that flight, you're not going to get off the same. And I'm like, you don't understand. It's 20 grand has been paid for my ticket alone. And I've been paid half my fee. They're gonna sue my ASS off if I don't show up. And he goes, I see you're a hard head. I'm just gonna tell you, you get on that plane, you're not walking off. And I was like, Doc, I don't know what to tell you, but I got to go to work. This is how I feed my family. So I went upstairs and started packing. I literally actually passed out from pain. And I woke up at 10 o'clock at night and called the doctor. And he's like, what's going on? And I said, hey, man, my leg, my right leg is completely numb. My right arm numb. My groin, everything is numb. And he was like, get to the ER. And I'm like, why? I've been there 3 times. He goes, just get to the ER and tell me you have a DVT. And I was like, what's a DVT, man? I'm just tired of this. And he goes, Flex, you don't understand. You don't have time. You need to get there. So in my ignorance and lack of knowledge, I'm like, geez, man, I got to go to a hospital. I'm going to be sitting there for hours. So I stopped by Burger King on the way. So, I might go get some food and, I'm not aware of the severity of everything. And I get there and everything changes drastically. I couldn't even walk anymore. The security had to roll me in a wheelchair. And he goes, I know who you are. Let me get you to the back so, everybody's not gawking at you. And they did my blood pressure, and it was 210/205.
What?
Yeah. And that just
What?
shifted the mood of the whole hospital. 2 people would walk in my room, take my blood pressure, walk back out. 3 people would walk in, and it ended up 20 people in there, and they're staring at me like, how do you feel? And I'm like, what do you mean how I feel? I'm like, I'm sitting here crying in pain. That's how I feel, But anyway, so they did a bunch of surgeries, tried to save my leg. I ended up going into kidney failure. They put me in a coma, induced me into a coma that was going to be for a few hours while they did the surgery, and the coma ended up turning into 10 days.
Wow. When they induced that, I'm assuming that they were expecting not to have you under for that long. Was it just because they needed?
No, it was just supposed to be just an 8-hour surgery. They call it a blood clot buster. But for some reason, I remember this from just my family members telling me that they were telling me that it was really difficult to put me under. And they're like, we given enough tranquilizers to put down a horse, and he's still fighting us back there. So we're waiting until we can get him under. So no, that was not expected to be in a coma that long. Came out of the coma, had just multiple surgeries trying to save the leg. They thought they saved it. I was still in the hospital recovering for a couple of months and walking and it was no pain. I was able to walk and I was able to propel myself. And I'm like, oh my God, I can walk again, and it doesn't hurt. And a couple of days later, it just started kind of hurting a little bit. And that familiar pain started coming back. And I just said to myself, it's like, wow, I'm not going to be walking too much longer.
Wow. That was a premonition that you had in that moment.
Yeah, I did. And I even told some people, and they're like, man, you can't give up like that. And I'm like, come on, you know me, I'm one person who don't give up on anything. I go, I can just feel it. But, that was in early mid-year. I was at a business meeting and it was a lot of walking. And when I got to the airport, I couldn't even walk through the airport. Just every couple of steps I took, I would crumble to the ground. And I was supposed to fly to Dubai 2 days later for another event. And my business partner at the time was like, Flex, you know, how are we going to do this in Dubai? You can't even walk in the airport. And I'm like, man, I don't know. And just, again, just, you know, realization is like, yeah, how are you going to do that? You know, and you're going to end up in a hospital in some foreign country, you know, and the pain just got worse. And when I boarded the plane, I was like, yeah, I remember the doctor telling me, don't get on that plane. And I was like, geez, you know, I'm about to get on a plane, you know. And I just prayed that God, please, you know, if I make it, you know, I'm going straight to the hospital. So I made it and went straight to the hospital. They took me back immediately, did an ultrasound, and found out that the blood clot had gotten worse, or whatever it was. It was blocked 90% on one side of my calf and 100% on the other side. And they're like, you know, we're there. Oh. I'm like, okay. And I go, you sure we're there? She goes, yeah, we're there. I'm like, okay, just take it. Just take it, you know. And he goes, are you sure? I'm like, why? I can't walk, and, you know, it's so much pain. Wow. And if it's that type of blood clot, it could break off and literally kill me as I'm sitting here right now. Right. Yeah. So I'm like, just take it. So that was the beginning of a new beginning.
Oh my God! How long ago? What year was this?
It's October now. Right around 3 years. Right around 3 years. Yeah.
Okay. That was a tough time to be in the hospitals too. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with Flex Wheeler. This is the NASM CPT podcast, and I appreciate, man, the vulnerability to share this. I know it's hard to talk about some of these things, and I know you've probably told the story before, so it also gets tiresome to tell the story, I'm sure. And so I appreciate you just taking a moment to share with us. I think on the podcast, it's been a little bit ago, but I had done some traveling last year. I'd come back from Thailand for the AFC Asia Fitness Conference, where I presented. And when I came back, for days, my calf was hurting, and I was like, oh, maybe I pulled something. And then, of course, like, I'm thinking to myself, I know what a strained muscle feels like. This is not what it feels like. I just don't want to be truthful with myself. And so anyway, I go and talk to a friend of mine who's DPT, a doctor of physical therapy, who's at the gym. And I was like, hey, Anna, can I run this by you? And she goes, Rick, why don't just go to the doctor? I was like, I know. And I did. And they did, they checked for DVT, which I thought was interesting. So I didn't expect this, Flex. And you may have, I don't know how it was with you, but my pain was in the calf. They spent almost the entire time in the groin area. Like and I was surprised. I was like, yo, my pain is in the calf. You're going to look down there? And they're like, actually, tendency is the blockages are much higher up, but you just feel it in the lower leg.
Exactly. And I was exactly where mine was. You know, from my kidney transplant I had in 2003, the donor, her main artery wasn't long enough. So they went into my main artery in my left quad, and used that to extend the surgery for
interesting,
her artery. So in doing so, they then had to take a graft from this quad to this quad for blood supply. And ironically, the day after the kidney transplant, I got a blood clot in my lower calf area, the same where they amputated. And what they're speculating now is, obviously you can't lose a leg from a DVT. It just doesn't happen. It's not severe enough. So they're speculating now that the graft that they put in that ends right here in my groin area started failing, and over time started spitting out blood clots. The clot was up here, but the pain was down there. And even after they amputated, they were in fear, where they brought me to the hospital a few times and thought they're going to have to amputate up in a groin area because it had clotted again. But they said, because I had my leg had created such sufficient arterial arteries that I was able to keep the leg from blood supply, but it was fully blocked off by the other.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And as you mentioned, and I don't know how many people know this, the biggest concern for a DVT, I mean, obviously, like the amputation, which is not common. The concern is that the DVT, the deep vein thrombosis, turns into a moving thrombus, a moving clot, which can go into the heart and then end up in the lungs, which is where it usually is. So then you get a pulmonary thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, something like that, where that can potentially lead to death. So a super big concern there is generally not so much about what's going on at the legs. It's whether or not a blood clot breaks free and then ends up killing you. And it sounds like, them getting in there and at least doing that busting, even though it led to the lower extremity, then but they were able to keep it, they were able to keep you with us. So that's a blessing.
Yeah.
Can you tell me whether or not your amputation is it above or below the knee?
No, I'm BK.
Okay.
Yeah, below the knee.
Okay.
Yeah, below the knee.
And listen, I'm gonna ask you to share a little bit more, because I want to know where you were. Like, I know going into the hospital that day, and you said take it. Like you had kind of resolved. You'd dealt with so much pain. You'd passed out multiple times. The writing was on the wall, and you read it before a lot of people did. And you were like, if they got to do it, they got to do it. So when they brought it up to you, you said, okay, let's just make it happen.
Yeah, and
then it happened.
The few times that there was probably 20 or 30 times between June and the time that I went in for amputation that I was just rushed to the hospital for just sheer pain. So they're used to me coming in there. And one time, the doctor in an ER had seen me so many times. He was just really candid and honest with me. And, he just looked at me. He walked in my room and he just stared at me. And he goes, this is harder to tell you than it would be most people, because we all know who you are, and we know what you achieved. But there's nothing else we can do. You can come in for pain flex and we'll help you, manage the pain and, send you home when we got it managed. But there's nothing else until that time comes. And I just looked at him and I'm like, what do you mean until that time comes? He's like, until that time comes, or we have to take it. So that kind of solidified like my thought that I had months ago. And it kind of, also helped me prepare. Like you said, the writing was on the wall. So, I really felt, that in my heart that it was going to happen. And now having a doctor kind of, bring more clarity to it. Yeah. So when I went in and they said the blockage had, gotten worse. So like, yeah, then we're there. And that's even what she said. She said, we're there. She didn't say anything else. The doctor, and I knew what that meant.
And you knew, yeah. So then it happened, right? It happened. You wake up. You see it. Or you don't see it, right?
Yeah.
Where are you? Where are you in your head in that moment when that conceptually became a reality when you woke up from that surgery?
Yeah, I don't know why. It just it just came clear that I had to like chronograph, like video, take videos of this all happening. So I did a lot of like private interviews just with myself in my room, before surgery. And I remember on one video I posted, I just said, I don't know how this is going to turn out. But when I wake up and I see my leg gone, either I'm going to be okay 100% or I'm not going to be okay 100%. It's just going to be that 1/10 of a second to look down there. That, the world is going to be very dark for me, or else I'm going to be okay. And when I woke up and, I woke up, and when I realized, again, what all had happened coming out of days, I glanced down and it was gone. And I was like, okay, okay, it's like, okay, I'm okay with it, and at that moment, I just had something came across me. It's like, there's no way that I achieved such incredible things around the world, in fighting, in martial arts and other things. And now I'm going to go hide when one of the worst conceivable things happen. So I just said to myself, I'm like, I got to figure it out, but, I'm just going to be a poster child for amputees. I want to be a spokesperson. I want to try to help other amputees around the world, because now I'm one of them. So I've used my name for so many global reasons and businesses. I want to take, this lemon that's happened to me and make lemonade out of it and try to serve it sweet. So that really helped me also, because it gave me a focus on what I wanted to do.
I think that's one of those things that helps you kind of heal and get over not as so much the physical, but mentally where you are, is if you can take what happened to you and turn around and try to help other people that's happening to. And you can see this you can see it in AA, where alcoholics turn around and they help other people that are alcoholic. Right? Let me be your sponsor. Let me help you out. We see that all sorts of recovery programs. We see it. I know so many physical therapists that are physical therapists because of the stuff that's happened to them. And so they've taken that, turned around and said, let me take what happened to me, turn around and help somebody else out. So I see you, and I raise a glass to you for that. And I want to, I appreciate that in you, and knowing that, one of the ways to help turn that lemon into lemonade is to also help other people in that process.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's very therapeutic, for me, again, I don't think I've been allowed, that God allowed me to achieve such greatness and have it be globally broadcasted around the world. And then I run and hide, when the worst unthinkable thing happens. So that's just what I'm trying to do now. It's just, because I'm that guy, I'm sure everybody listening that once looked at somebody and said, looked at a person like, wow, I wonder what's that like, or how did they lose their leg or their arm or their eye? What's their story? But you don't want to stare, you don't want to be rude, but you wonder, and you keep walking by and you keep wondering, wonder what's that story? Yeah. So I'm that guy now. So I try to break the ice, especially like with kids. When I see kids, and they're staring at, I'm like, hey, how you doing? You want to touch it? And they're like, yeah,
it's awesome. Yeah.
But, I just try to use it as an icebreaker, and and again, just to try to bring just how difficult life is as an amputee, just unthinkable things you would never think about having to worry about, just some really private things you would never, think about, just having two legs, and just the, I guess you could almost say, how it really bends your mind mentally. Especially for me, I was right leg dominant, when I fought. I was right leg dominant. And then, in bodybuilding, I was right leg dominant. So, to have achieved so much on two legs and have a home that every picture I'm in, there's two legs. There's just so many mental warps of this game that happen, teaching myself how to drive a car, like that. Wow. It's just a lot of just stuff you just don't think about. How do you get dressed? How do you go to the bathroom? Do you get up and go to the bathroom? All that stuff. It's just so many different levels to this onion of life. And I just want to try to make it easier for other amputees.
That's amazing.
Period.
My friend Billy Davis, I met him after he had lost his leg, and he's a triathlete. He's very much part of the program. It's not coming to me right now, but it's a program where people help other people with physical disabilities, right? So amputees. I know somebody who runs with a blind athlete so that they can help it, but I can't think of the program. So hopefully it'll come to me. But Billy's the same way. We walked over. He was sitting at a restaurant as I walked by with my son, and I waved. And my son, young at the time, of course, looks, and he invites him over, just like you said. Come over. Do you want to see it? Do you want to touch it? He was like, I don't. And then he was like, yes, I do. Right?
Yeah.
But it's a blessing. But that's a spooky thing for. And not spooky. It's interesting. It is of interest. All of us, right? We all want to know the story. We all see it and we think, what happened? Who is this person? What was the story behind it? And for people to acknowledge, right? Like, I know you're curious. I know that you want to ask a question, but for right now, just come over and say hi.
Yeah.
And that meant a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think every year he does a hamburger anniversary, because when he woke up from his surgery, the first thing he wanted was a hamburger. So every year on Billy's amputation day, we all have a hamburger in his honor. So that's something that he started for a long time, and so we still do that. I want to follow up again now with you. So going from here. I'm assuming, and I want to talk to you about it so you can fill in the blanks here, that fitness and health and wellness, the concepts maybe have shifted a little bit as far as your perspective. But can you tell me what that perspective is? You're still fit, still, fitness and healthy, and gym is still part of your life. Is that what's happening?
100%. So, what I understand now, just, and I'll put it like resistance training, because it doesn't have to be in a gym doing weight training, but just with resistance training or calisthenics, they're the true fountain of youth. You're not going to find it in a bottle or a drink or anything like that, or in a needle. It's a true fountain of youth. So, but yeah, my outlook on, being healthy is so much more different now, than it was when I was younger. It was about a lot of times what we do as human beings, we think, everything is visual. So if you look at something and visual looks great, we think it is. For men, we look at a woman and think, oh wow, because she visually looks appealing. She is, or vice versa, and that may not always be the truth, like Prince said, everything that glitter isn't gold. But that was my outlook back then, right? Physical, because I was so physical, and I looked physical and I looked the part. But I was so imperfected in so many ways, not just physically, just mentally, mental health, my thought process, and what I looked upon life and what I thought was really healthy. So, now understanding that I've been here longer than I'm going to be here, it's so important to me to, kind of re-educate people that I educated all these years on this look and this lifestyle is actually healthy when it's actually not. So living a healthier lifestyle, just eating good and not, it's, now in this world, everybody is so cerebral, writing down, their macros and minerals. I'm sure Neal knew back in those days, but I throughout my entire career and probably over half of my career of doing diets, I didn't know what the hell a macro or mineral was. But people are writing it down and counting it and weighing. I'm like, wow, you're so cerebral, you're never going to get it done. it's like in fighting, you're too busy trying to get out before you get in,
Yeah.
But it's just so important to me. So, the training app that I have now and the nutrition line that I released just now, Flex Wheeler Nutrition, my shameless plug. But,
Do it.
the truth is, it's a way of giving back because the sport has given me everything. Absolutely every bill that I pay is through this sport. Every contract that I still have is through this sport. Absolutely every revenue stream that I have is from this sport, and including my own clothing company. It's through this sport. So it's also to show people like-minded like me that come from the other side of the railroad tracks, that wasn't the smartest, that came from the ghetto and welfare and stuff like that, you can make it as long as you dream and persevere and work hard. And lastly, it's just a promise that I made to somebody, a long, long time ago. And, they said, I told him I could never pay him back for everything he's done for me and he's doing for me. And he goes, well, I demand you pay me back, Flex. And I was like, how that, you've done so much. How could I ever pay you back? And he goes, you're going to pay me back. And I demand that you pay me back. And I go, how? And he goes, you're going to pay me back by changing people's lives through health and fitness for the rest of your life. And that was Neal Spruce. So that's the other thing that I'm paying forward is trying to change people's lives through health and fitness. And real quickly, it's simple, right? It's not difficult. Look at this analogy. If your car is dirty and you wash it, it seems like it drives better. It seems like my picture's crooked or I'm crooked. One of us are crooked. But if your car is dirty, you get it washed, and it seems like it drives better. Just when you go in the gym and you train and you eat clean, you just feel better. You look at a person who may not look so physically fit. Maybe she or he's a little bit overweight, and they go in the gym and they just having a ball and they work and they walk out and they just feel like they look like the best supermodel in the world, and they're not. That's because they're training. They're putting something in. It's this positive energy that just flows from you. The same thing when you're in a rut and you're not eating good, you're not training, you just sit there and you feel like a loaf, and it's something that sustains in motion, it continues that. So, if you just sit there, you just stay in a rut, you just like days go by. But, when you're trained, it's like, man, I got to get up, I got to do it. I can't wait to go. And you go to sleep feeling that way. I can't wait to eat my food because you see results and you feel a certain way. And that doesn't actually happen overnight, but you feel it overnight. And as you feel that way, you start to make progress, and you see that progress, and it's like, there's no stopping now,
Yeah, I tell people all the time that, exercise doesn't immediately change you physically, but it can almost immediately change you mentally.
Yeah.
And so we like to parse everything out and separate it. This is good for the brain. This is good for the heart. This is good for but I mean, we're all one physical entity, and our mental is connected with that. And if we treat our physical entity well, our mental well-being starts to sharpen, and we do tend to feel better as a general rule. Now, it's not the same for everybody, but as a general rule, I think that's definitely the case. And research is leaning that way, and it's showing that way. And even a lot of mental health professionals are leaning more and more towards prescribing physical activity for people just to get them in a better mental state. So, we don't need to peel everything apart all the time. Sometimes we can just say, hey, this is good for all of you, right? Like every component of you, and physical activity. And like you said, does it have to be the gym? Doesn't have to be, but physical activity is a salve. It is a ointment. It is it is, motion is lotion, it is medicine, and that can
It can
help
be so many
so
things.
many things.
Yeah, it could be playing swimming pool basketball in the backyard with your kid. It
That's
could be
right.
playing basketball and with your kids in the front. It can just be getting out walking your dog. Sometimes you just have to dumb it down. And I think, again, we're in such a crazy world where, everybody think they got to do like these bodybuilding, moves. I embarrassingly, and I say embarrassingly because I shouldn't be laughing, right? And I don't laugh out loud or anything, but you just go in the gym, you got everybody and their grandmother doing deadlifts and stuff like that. I'm like, really, just no form, no proper, not like no core, just because it's been visibly done so many things, so many times, and everybody's doing squats now, and no form or anything like that. And it's like, wow, but just back to the basics. Sometimes it's so simple. I think we're so cerebral. Sometimes we need to really just dumb it down. I remember Neal telling me one time, losing weight is so easy. I'm like, how is that? He goes, Flex, as long as you, say it, if you ate, to make it simple, if you ate 100 calories and you burned off 101 calories, you lost weight. Because it doesn't matter what food you ate. It doesn't matter what time. It doesn't matter how many times. He goes, that's how simple it is. He goes, now from there, we make it difficult. But you burn 1,000 calories, burn 1,001, you lost weight, and you go from there. So.
Yeah. Flex, I want to just say, as we start to wrap up here, that first of all, it's been an honor to have you on here and to chat with you, but really the honor is more just to be here and listen to you share your story. But this is a personal training podcast, so there are a lot of trainers, a lot of coaches, a lot of fitness professionals out there, and you're still in our eyes a trainer and a coach, and you share your story with people, whether they're clients or whether that's at a booth, at a conference, up on stage. Share just kind of final thoughts for us as fitness professionals, something that maybe you think that we need to know or walk away with.
I think, especially now, what we need to be aware of is the power to change someone's lives. We have the power to make a person feel better. We have the power to make a person feel worse. We have the power to make a person actually feel like living here and staying. And we need to understand that power that we have, and respect that power. A lot of, unfortunately, trainers get into this business because they want to make money and they think it's about making money. And I just got to tell you, if that's the reason you're getting into this, I would advise you to probably find something else, because this is probably one of the most truest sports that you can be involved in. And people are going to find that out if you're just about money. Majority of us who are successful in this, we really want to change people's lives through health and fitness. Having a client and having their body composition change so tremendously that, their doctor tell them that they don't have to take heart medication anymore or blood pressure medication. That's changing somebody's lives. That brings a smile on my face. Having a patient go to the doctor and then them coming back and them saying, okay, I can start eating a normal diet. I'm not a diabetic anymore. That's what I mean, giving back, and that ripple effect. So, make sure you're into it for the right reasons, and be true and honor, to this love, this sport that we have. And what better gift or love that you can receive by just looking at somebody and having them, look at you and say, hey man, you helped me, you helped me get in shape. Or, you helped save my life by helping me get back in shape. I mean, if that don't bring a smile to your face, then you might want to invest in maybe in a good psychiatrist.
Yeah, here. Hey Flex, where can people find you? I know that you mentioned your website previously and clothing line, nutrition. Just go ahead and plug some things as we start to wrap up,
Sure.
so people can
Yeah,
find you.
sure. Just to simplify it, you can find me official Flex Wheeler. I run all of my businesses and organizations and nonprofits and all that stuff through there. So anything I've got going on, you guys can find out from there. But man, I just want to say thank you so much. I know there was a multiple different complications trying to get this going from last year at the before the Arnold Classic. But it's just been an honor. I appreciate what you guys stand for. I know Dad and the way he runs and gets down. He runs a tight ship, and I'm honored and proud of everybody who comes from beneath his wings, because that's another person who's being sent out to help change people's lives through health and fitness.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I hear some tap dancing over there. Is that
it's my red nose, my service dog here. He keeps walking around. He wants some attention.
All right. Well, listen, we're going to let you give him some attention. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest, Flex Wheeler. What an absolute delight to have him on the show. And y'all, listen, you keep doing what you're doing. Keep inspiring people to fitness. If you do not mind, like, subscribe, share with your fitness friends and family about this podcast. And if you leave a review, then head onto the platform, leave a review. It's always very helpful for us. You want to reach out to me, you can hit me up at dr.rickrichey on Instagram and Threads, or you can email me, rick.richey@nasm.org. Thanks for being here. Keep inspiring people to fitness. This has been the NASM CPT Podcast.